Okay, welcome back once again to another tutorial. Welcome back. So what I want to show you now is how to get your WELT pocket. That is what I want to show you that now. And as you can see, I have a video on how to cut your pants trouser. I have a video on how to sew your side pocket for your front. And this is a video on how to sew your WELT pocket for your back. So I have my notch in place now. What I'm going to do is to sew my notch first before showing you guys what to do next. So at this my notch, what I'm going to do now is to sew it by 0.5 down to the length of 4 inches. So 4 inches is the length of which we are going to sew for our back dart. So make sure you sew 0.5 down to this 4 inches. So let me go ahead and do that. So I have gone ahead to sew my dart close, as you can see. Gone ahead to sew my dart close, and I went on to iron it. So you can see what I have here. This is my dart which I have sewn close. I went on to iron, and I placed a strong gum stay on this part. So if you take a look from this part to where my 4 inches is, this is where my 4 inches is from this part. So after getting my 4 inches to this part, my gum stay is in between it's at the center piece. So what I have there is 3.5 for my gum stay. So your 4 inches should be in the middle of your gum stay when you place it and iron it. So what you are going to get for your width of your pocket will be 5.5. So 5.5 divided by 2 will give me 2.7. So here is my 2.7. It is starting at that point where I sewed my that point which I have. That is where my 5.5 is. So I'm going to mark at this point, and I'm going to mark at this point. So the width of my pocket is 5.5. And what I'm going to do, I will make sure my pocket is sitting at the right form, which means I will make sure my pocket is straight. So this is where my 5.5 inch, I'm going to rule a straight line. This is very necessary. Make sure your pocket is straight, following this your shape which you have at this point here. So you should make sure your pocket is straight. So my pocket now is still not straight. So you are going to make sure your pocket is straight. Let me finish this and cross check what I have at this straight part. Your pocket should not be bent, it should be straight. So from this top, what I have here is 4 inches. What I have there is 4.5. 4 inches, 4.5 is what I have here. At this other part, it was slanted and it is not straight, so they will not be the same shape. So go ahead to rule my lines and make sure you cross check if your lines are straight. This is very important for you to know. So I am coming back to mark out my dart which I have. 5.5. So this is what I have here. And here. So what I am going to do now, my pocket, I want to cut out my main pocket base, which is my pocket filler, where my hand is going to sit on. So for my pocket filler, what I'm going to do now, it is going to be up like this. Take a closer look at what I'm doing now. My pocket is going to sit like this, about 2.5 inch upward from this part. Then it's 2.5 inch, let me say 2.5 inch upward, and I'm going to count 6 or 5 inches from my pocket depth. So let me say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what I have here now is 8.5. So my pocket is totally going to be like this. It's going to sit like this, 8.5. So this point is 21. So the length of my pocket cover my pocket filler is going to be 21. Take a closer look. I have 2.5 at this up here, and it's the depth of my pocket. Either you make it 5.5 or 6 inches. So what I have in total, so it should come up. What I have in total is 21. That is what I have in total. So I'm going to cut the length of my pocket divided by 2. I'm going to make it 22. divided by 2 will give me 11. Then the width, I am going to extend my width by 8 inches, keeping 1 inch at each part. So I'm going to make it 8 inches for the width of my pocket. Then the length will be 22. So let me go ahead to cut that and come back to you. So I have gone ahead to cut my piece for my pocket. As I told you, 22 is the length and 8 inches is the width. And I went on to cut another piece for the to fold my pockets in. So what I have here, I have 8 inches for the width, and I have 3.5, and I have 3.5 by 8, 3.5 by 8, and I went on to fold in 0.5 inch, so I am left with 3 inches at this part. For I have 2 pieces of this. So after getting this, I put it aside and I went on to iron it to get my crease line, because I will need this crease line later on. So after doing that, so you remember I told you this part will go up by 2.5, as you can see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my mark at 2.5. 2.5 is my mark. I want to make this easier for you to understand. That is why you see me doing all this calculation. I don't want to give you an exact figure, because not all measurements are the same. So this is my 2.5 which I have there, and I'm going to put it at that my line which I have, at this line which I have here. I'm going to place it on that line. After placing this on this line like this, what I'm going to make sure is what I have in between these two parts is equal. So let me get the midpoint between this my 8 inches is 4. So the midpoint in between 8 inches is 4. From 1 to 8 is 4. So this is my midpoint, and at this midpoint I'm going to place it at the midpoint of this my pocket which I have here. So it should sit at that midpoint, and the line should also meet. Then you can go ahead to hold it down with your pins. I'm doing this to make it easier for you to understand. So I'm going to hold it down with pins at this part. So I'm also going to hold this down with pins at this part as well. So I'm going to do it like this. So after doing it like this, what I'm going to do now, I am going to run a stitch. I'm going to run a straight stitch. So let me come over to this point and get the same 5 inches. So 2.5 which I have here, 2.7 which I have here, and 2.7 which I have here, making it 5.5. So what I am going to do now at this point, I am going to run a straight stitch from this my 5 which I have there. So let me get the same thing here. So in total 2.5. So I'm going to run a straight stitch from this part down to this end here. So let me go ahead to do that. Okay, so I have done that, and you can see what I have there. I'm going ahead to, so it's from this point to this point is 5.5, and from this point, which you can see here, to this point is 5.5. So what I'm going to do now, you can see my 8 inches which I have. I'm going to sew here close down to this end. I'm also going to sew this part down to this end. I'm also going to sew it close. So you can see what I have. I'm going to sew it close. So what I'm going to do now, you can see after folding, I have my crease line. So this crease line, you are going to make sure everything is straight. So you're going to put it at exactly this your line. So this is your dart line. That is the midpoint of our pocket. This is your dart line. That is the midpoint of our pocket. So you're going to place it straight on that line which you sewed. It should be straight on that line at both sides. It should be on that line, and it should be straight. Then what you are going to do, you are going to mark 5.5 from that point. 5.5, which is 2.7 plus 2.7, making 5.5. So 2.7 here, and and here making 5.5. Okay, so in total of this, now what I have here now is 5.5. That is what I have here. So from this my midpoint, I have 5.5 from this point to this point. So from here to here is 2.2. From here to here is 2.7, 2.7, making it 5.5. So after getting my 5.5 here now, after I go on to sew here, I'm going to sew 0.3 inches, 0.3. So the width of what I'm going to make use of now is 0.3. 0.3, not up to 0.5. So 0.3, that will be the length of my sewing intake which I'm going to do. So I'm going to sew from this end to this end 0.3. So you are going to use your ruler to mark it out, mark out 0.3. That's what you are going to sew. Not up to 0.5, 2, 3, okay, 0.4. 0.4, that's what I'm going to sew. 0.4, not up to 0.5. Take note of that. It should not be up to 0.5. So I'm going to sew from here down to this end, and from there down to this end. I hope you understand what I'm doing. So make sure you place it on this your line which you sewed at this part. So I'm working with my front now. It's going to sit on my front. So let me go ahead to do that. You can see what I have here. You can see what I have at this part. I'm going ahead to sew it as I told you. Put this down and this up, so you can see what I have at this back side. So thank God for the fabric which I'm working with. You can see what I am working with. You can see my both stitch ends at equal parts, stitch down and end at equal parts. So after that, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to fold it like this. So you can see what I'm doing now. I'm going to fold it like this, and I'm going to notch at my center piece. So that part which I run my first thread, that is where I'm going to. So you can see what I have here now. So I'm going to cut this. So when you get to about 1 inch, so let me cross check. When you get about 0.7 inch, when you get to about 0.7 inch, where I am now, you are going to take this out like this. You can see what I'm doing, and you are going to follow through. You're going to stop exactly at that point which you have your thread, where your thread stopped. So make sure you stop at that end of your thread. Make sure you stop. Let me make use of this part for this, but make sure you make use of your right side so you don't cut your fabric. So make sure you stop at that end. Maybe when you get to this part, you can turn it over to do it like this. Make sure you get at that point where don't exceed it, and don't just stop at exactly that point where your sewing stops. So I'm also going to do it this other side. I'm going to stop exactly at this point. So you can see, if you fold it out like this, you can see where it stops. Go ahead to stop exactly at that point. When doing your back pocket, this is very crucial. You need these things to be in place. So at this other one as well, I'm going to cut it up to that point, and I'm also going to stop exactly at that point. So this is where my thread, you can see where my thread stops. So you can see it here. This is where it stops. So I'm going to stop at that. I don't exceed it. Please take note of that. Don't exceed that point. Try your possible best to get to exactly that point there. So this way as well, I'm also going to get to that point where it stops. So this is the big part which you play in your back pocket. This makes it either neat or rough. This is where it becomes neat or rough. So exactly at that point. So after doing that, so you can see what I have here now. So only this part which I cut, I did not cut on this part. So it was only this inside part, as you can see, which I cut. So what I'm going to do now is to put this in like this, where the arrangement also comes from. So I will go ahead to iron. But before I iron, I want to show you how to go about this and you iron. So I put this in. So this one at this upper part. This one at this upper part is going to lie straight, while this one at this down part is going to come up a bit. So let me show you. So it is going to be like this. Let me show you what it's going to look like. So this one at this part is going to lie like this, and this one at this part is going to come up like this. So you can see me, I am trying to bring it out. So you can see, if I place it like this, it is equal. it is equal. But because I don't want to make it equal, I want to cover this part. If I do it like this, it won't work. It won't work. So I'm going to bring it up a bit, using it to use this way to do it like that. I'm going to, while this is being placed like this, there is nothing for you to do at this other part. Just place it like that. Then this one, you bring it up, just like this, upward, just like this. Then what you are going to do, make sure this one which you trim is inside, so you can see the neatness, because I went very close. I went close to that my stitch, so it's neat. If you exceed that your stitch, what will happen is that it will show you sign that you have exceeded your stitch, and here will look rough. And if you still do not go close to that stitch, it will still be rumpled at this part. So you need to be at exactly that stitch which your sewing ends. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to place it like this and sprinkle a lot of water to iron this, so it sits like this. So make sure you arrange it very well, both this side. Make sure everything is in place. Make sure you fold it close to that end. So let me go ahead to do that without wasting much time, and come back. If there's anything to explain, I explain to you. Okay, so I have gone ahead to iron my pocket, and you can see how it is looking like. It is now very neat and straight. So what I'm going to do now, to secure what I raised up from this down part, so take a closer look. So you can see where I raised up for this down part. So you can see where I raised up. Instead of to be like this, I raised it up. Like, so what I'm going to do to secure this part, I'm going to turn it like this. Take a closer look. I'm going to turn it like this. So you can see I raised, it was like this. I want to make this easier for you to understand. I hope you do understand what I'm doing here. So it was like this, but I'm going to raise this up. I'm going to raise this upper one. I'm going to raise it up like this and place it like this. So you can see, after being raised up, you can see what I have there. So I'm going to raise this as well. Raise this part, and I'm going to sew at this part to secure what I raised. I'm going to sew from this end. I'm going to sew down to this end. So let me go ahead to do that. I've gone ahead to secure it. So take a closer look. I have gone ahead to secure it. So you can see what I just did. I run a stitch down to this part. So this now is being secured. So now this now is being secured. So after doing that, what I'm going to do now is to fold this back. I'm going to fold it back like this. I'm going to close it back like this. So after closing that back, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn this like this. Turn it like this. Take out my pocket again. Then this part which I notched, you can see this V shape at this part. So what I'm going to do for this part now is to run a straight stitch down to this point. Make sure when it gets here, it back stitch, then come down to this point. And at this side as well, you are still going to do the same thing. But before you go ahead to place this and sew down, make sure what you have at this end is equal, and make sure it is straight. So there are sometimes, if you don't take note of this part, it might come in, and when you sew, it will look rough. So make sure this part is very straight when you take your fabric in, then take your pockets in, then you go ahead to secure here as well. So it stitch here, then sew down. So let me go ahead to do that. Okay, so I have gone ahead to sew it down, and I went on to trim it. So what I have here is about 0.3 inches for the width of what I have here. 0.3 inches from my sewed line to this point where I trimmed is 0.3 inches. So I have the same thing at both points. So after getting it at both points, what you are going to do now is to bring this out. That's what I have here now. After sewing this and cut out, as you can see, after sewing this and cut out your piecing at both points, you can see what I have there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this upward like this. I'm going to place this straight like this, and I will make sure how many I want the depth of my pocket to be. So I'm going to take from this part, 6 inches is what I want my depth of my pocket to be. I want it to be at 6 inches, the depth. So I'm going to bring it like this. The depth of my pocket, 6 inches. So after doing it like this, make sure this part is straight. Okay, so you can see what I have here. It is lying straight. You can see it is lying straight with this other part. So what I am going to do now, after making sure of the length of my pocket, I'm going to raise this out. I'm going to raise this like this. After raising it like this is what I have for my pocket here. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to notch here. Give this part a notch and give this other part a notch. So after doing it like this, after giving those two parts a notch, what I am going to do as my cloth is like this, I am going to take it like this. Take a closer look at this part. Take a closer look. You can see me raising it, then I turn it like this. So what I am going to do now, my pocket is now like this. It was like this when I notched that part. It was like this. Now I am turning this in like this. So it's now like this. So what I'm going to do at this part, I am going to sew. I'm going to, after turning it like this, I'm going to sew from this part. Don't get close to this point. I'm going to sew from this part. Sew like this. Sew it round down to this end. So when sewing, make sure you are holding this other one as well down to this end. So let me go ahead to do that and come back to you. After doing this is what I have at my pocket after sewing from this part down to this point. So what I'm going to do now, go ahead to trim any excesses out just like this to get my pocket shape. Just like this, I'm going to trim them out. So after doing it like this, what I'm going to do now is to take it in because it is now out. I'm going to turn this. So you can see at this part, I'm going to turn this in. I'm going to turn it in like this. So you can see what I have there. I've turned my pocket in like this. So now you can see my pocket which I now have at this point. So you can see what I have at this point for my pocket. So what I am going to do next after turning my pocket in like this, so you can see my pocket is almost out. We have not done yet. It's almost out. So after turning this like this, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to fold this inward. Then I'm going to sew from this part. Take note of this part. It is like this. I'm going to fold this in like this. Then I'm going to sew from this part down to this end. Sew this end. So it rounds it until I fold this part again and I will stop here. So let me go ahead to do that, then come back. So I have gone ahead to sew it round as I told you, all the way from this up. I went on to sew it round down to this up. So after doing that, what we are going to do now is to close this up. So take a closer look at what I want to show you now. So if you take a look at this upper part, okay, you take a closer look at this upper part. There is a link that goes in here, and it won't look nice if it is like that. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to take this in now, and I'm going to run a stitch to close it at this part. So when running your stitch, make sure your stitch is also holding this part. So you remember when holding this my front, I climb on that little piece which I have at this part to secure this part. So you also want to secure this upper part as well. So I'm going to sew a stitch from this part down till this end to secure this upper part. So after securing this part, I will now turn it over like this and secure this part as well down to this end. So let me go ahead to do that and come back to you. I have done that and I have gone ahead to cut this out, as you can see. So we have come to a conclusion of our welt pocket. So this is what our welt pocket looks like. So you can see. So thank you very much for staying to this length. I really appreciate you guys for coming. This is how it looks like. So I really appreciate you guys for coming. Thank you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please, I don't want anyone to leave here without giving this video a thumbs up. Go ahead to give this video a thumbs up and share with your friends to also come and learn Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay safe and remain blessed. The conclusion of this both videos. So if you are just seeing your straight pockets, if you are just done washing this pocket and you have not washed this one, I have a video on how to make this one. And in case you are just watching this one and you have not seen this one, I will put the link down below in the description box for you to watch. So just go ahead to like and share to your friends, and see you in the next video.